check, 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 chop it down, check, 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 chop it down, chop it down, chop it down, you gon' chop it down, chop it down, chop it down, chop it down, you gon' chop it down.
I just appreciate everybody
Damn,
watching.
set,
Man.
Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive, this is Trap or Dive.
Yes, sir. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all that good stuff, man. Welcome, man, to the Trap or Dive podcast. Film sessions. Look, the all season is here for the Commanders. So we have a lot to get into over the course of these next couple of months. Before we get started, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you are new, we definitely appreciate it. The written version of this film breakdown that we are about to get into is already on Hogs Haven. And for those who don't know who we're talking about, it is the rookie now going into his second year, Chris Paul. Chris Paul had an interesting season, and I mean that from the sense of when he was drafted. Obviously, he was an interior lineman, a lot of athleticism, and a later round pick. And for Paul, throughout the season, he didn't get any playing time until the last game of the year against the Dallas Cowboys. However, there was talk probably within the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season that Chris Paul should be seeing some playing time. And as the weeks went along, we all know that the rumors that he is developing nicely became a little bit louder, just from a couple people who follow the team, right? So nothing really substantial, and you can't really prove or disprove it because it's only talk, hearsay. However, Chris Paul did get his opportunity in the season finale against the Dallas Cowboys to prove or make an argument that he should be considered as a starting guard for the Washington Commanders. So we're going to take a look at some of the clips, man, what he does well, what he doesn't do well right now, what he can build upon. I'm going to go from there. It was a lot of good takeaways. And then we got some things that we can kind of tweak or actually improve on from Chris Paul. So, let's go ahead and get right into the film breakdown of Chris Paul against the Dallas Cowboys. And you can take a look for yourself. All right, first up, we have the first play of the game for Chris Paul. As we all know, run blocking is very important, and Ron Rivera is in the process as we speak of trying to find his new offensive coordinator. The quote-unquote 2-to-1 ratio indicates, at least to us, that they at least want to establish the ground game every single game and have a solid run approach to every single game and opponent that they face. And for Chris Paul and even interior offensive linemen altogether, offensive linemen across the board and tight ends, Chris combo blocking and double teams are very important. And so this is what you're seeing when you get your first play, obviously highlighting Chris Paul right here. And look at the center as well. You can follow these two on this play. But more importantly, the goal is to understanding where Chris Paul is at. And for Chris, again, combo and doubles, it's all about what you can do at the first level, and understanding how you're able to attack your opponent and set yourself up to be in good position to win on the second level as well. And at the snap, you'll see Wes Schweitzer, the center, and Chris Paul, the guard, attack this one-tech defender and clear this gap just in case Jonathan Williams wants to follow behind him. But that is the true combo or true double team, really, what it looks like, because, they never really get off 91. Point being, though, as well, as you see from the snap, good position is important. Wes and Chris Paul both have a good hip-to-hip relationship as they're able to drive 91 back. But more importantly, look where Chris Paul's eyes are at, locked in on 42, because if 42 decides to declare and come up, Chris Paul has to make sure that he has located his second level defender, but also is in good position to make sure that he can climb and take that angle. Fortunately for Washington, again, that double team driven 91 back into 42. So you're able to get him off the ball. Now, no, this is 10 yards off the ball for 91. Wes and Chris really took their will, or took 91's will on that play. So that's a good sign, just seeing the competitiveness and seeing how he's able to approach the second level altogether overall. And that's a really good sight to see on his first play. All right, again, same thing. Blocking, first level blocking, and then setting yourself up for the second level. How are you able to do that? So here you go. Now you have something different. You have a 2-eye, right? 2 technique essentially, but just the inside shade to Chris Paul. And then Wes Schweitzer right here, who is uncovered, and you have Charles Leno, who is uncovered. Again, zone run. We'll set it up this way. So good angle to that second level, right? But also the foot. We're going to talk about something that could have been helped out from Chris Paul, in my opinion. But here we go again. The quickness off the line is good, right? But also the foot speed. I think he will be able to improve his play strength as the offseason goes along, being able to be more physical at the point of attack, because you shouldn't be that high. You shouldn't be stood up by a linebacker, right? Any linebackers. But my thing is with this one as well, again, the foot speed is there. I want to make sure that's clear, right? To have that as a interior offensive lineman is important. Have that as an offensive lineman altogether is important. Being able to take those angles and climb to the second level is really good. But I do think he could have helped Charles Leno, who is trying to reach 91, right? Now, he does put a hand on him, but a slight hand. And essentially, it makes it a little bit more difficult for Charles Leno to cross his face. And sometimes you need your interior offensive lineman to help you out, to help you fit that run block, right? And again, I don't know exactly what the communication was pre-snap. I don't know what the practice methods are and how they're taught to do this. So I'm not saying that Chris Paul is at fault, but what I will say is there's a potential that he could have stayed on that first level block a little bit longer in order to help Leno out, because as you see, as he's not able to fit this block properly, having that helmet, his helmet in his head on the inside shoulder as they're executing this run, right? 91 is also ultimately able to shed the block, get off the block, and clear a way for him to make a play on the football. In theory, if Leno is able to get this block, right, let's pause it right here. That cutback lane is right here. But it was disrupted because 91 was able to get there. All right, again, here we go. More zone blocking. All of this is important when you got to understand the type of scheme that you want to run. And we'll get to that towards the end of the film session. But again, lined up at left guard. And we'll go ahead and hit this snap. And that's really good as well. So what you're seeing, remember, as we started off this thing with combination and double teams, right? You got to have that good relationship when you start off, right? So initially, this is a 2-eye again, right? That inside shade. Chris Paul already has a good fit on the outside, on his outside shoulder, 91's outside shoulder to be specific, right? Has good hand usage, good placement, right? One outside of the shoulder, the other one inside the shoulder, inside the chest, right? Now you see his hands being able to pass him off to Schweitzer, who's able to take over 91 at the first level, but also look where his eyes are. He's already looking inside, ready to seal anything coming off of or working towards the ball carrier. So he's sealing off all right here, right? Executes it. Again, when you look at like how a play works, it's always about or evaluating. It's about the player that you're looking at. This play isn't unsuccessful, or this play isn't unsuccessful due to Chris Paul. It's other factors that play a part. That combination block between Wes Schweitzer and Chris Paul at the first level is really good, and Chris Paul helps set Schweitzer up as well. That seal for Williams was there. He wasn't slowed down because of Paul or Schweitzer. He was slowed down because of 92. So again, a good combo block on the first level, good angle climbing, right? Good positioning, able to take on the defensive back and help Williams run on his side if the block was there from Charles Zeno, or if 92 wasn't able to defeat Charles Zeno block. I thought it was a really good play from Chris Paul in the run game, but also something that I feel like Jared Patterson missed. Let's go ahead and run it and talk about it. So minimal gain, right? But big opportunity missed. Let's go ahead and start it off again. Again, zone run at the snap. Good initial quickness, right? To get in position to fit 91. Now he notices that 91 is uncovered essentially, right? And just working to maintain leverage in this gap, in that B gap, right? And at that point, Chris Paul has some good instincts, good football instincts to go ahead and create a lane for Jared Patterson. Drive him off the ball and create that lane. Jared Patterson, wish he was a little bit cleaner in this read, because if he doesn't hesitate for a second, right here, like, he probably has a bigger gain. Now the other angle, this angle won't show you how much yardage he had beyond that first level, but he had at least 20 yards to run. If you have the all 22, you could look at this one again, play 58. You see it on the screen. Again, if he just takes he's a little bit quicker in his cutback, right? That hole is created because of Chris Paul driving his defender off the ball. Very good play right here by Chris Paul. All right, here we are as a pass blocker for Chris. Let's go ahead and get the play in, and then talk about the things that he did well here. All right, we ain't gonna talk about the interception, right? Because our focus is on Chris Paul. That was definitely a bad play. All right, here we go. So you got a 2-eye again, right? Very good initial quickness and very good timing and placement with his hands, right? Able to quickly get hands on 91 and stop the bull, or stop the power rusher, or initially stop the power rusher. But now he's getting driven off the ball, right? And for a lineman, it's important to be able to set in your anchor, right? Hold your ground when you're getting bull rushed or you're having a power rush put on you, right? So at this point is where you have to try and refit. Look where his hands are. His hands are outside the shoulders, and he's not going to be able to have a good leverage against a power rusher like this, right? So refit your hands, and you saw that. Work his hands back inside. That's good independent hand usage and awareness of that, and having that awareness as a rookie is really good, because some people and people like veterans to this day still have issues with independent hand usage, and essentially it's being able to work one hand. Like it's really just that clear. Work one hand while the other hand is actively doing something else, and in terms of run engagements and pass rush engagements. So being able to do that, right? Get his hands in, sink his hips at the same time, right? To regain leverage and get him out of the pocket is really good. Again, he's not going to be able to tell that Sam Howell is leaving the pocket. So it's not as if Chris Paul gives up a pressure in a sense, right? Where 91 is. All Chris Paul is doing is assuming that Sam Howell is in the pocket. Chris Paul is assuming that everybody is maintaining their blocks and that he is staying in the pocket. So to see 91 come free is not necessarily a bad thing. It's more so Chris Paul winning a rep and assuming his quarterback is behind him and not to the side of him. So a really good rep there from Chris Paul in the pass game. Now here you have some good and bad, and it actually touched on some of the weaknesses that he does do, or that he does have in the pass game. So what you're seeing here, let's go ahead and run it and then talk about it. Actually, all right. So what you're seeing here is more of Paul's initial problems as a pass blocker, oversetting. So he's taking this angle set, this 45 angle set, and initially he's assuming, right, that he's going to cut off that path, right, in that angle in between Paul and Leno. But he sets too wide, right? He oversets, which gives the rusher 92 an inside path to Sam Howell. So right there is an issue that I've come across in that first game. He has overset several times. And then here's a couple of times. I don't want to, my words are important to me. So a couple of times he was caught oversetting, right? But he's able to recover due to good athleticism, right? Able to get his hands on 92, wash him around the arc, right? So you have a 3x2 slide protection. Schweitzer, Trey Turner, Sam Cosmi, all sliding right. And then you have Chris Paul, Charles Leno, and man-on-man blocking. So you have one-on-ones on the outside, Leno on Micah, Chris on 92. I think that's Watkins. So now he's just washing at this point of recovery, right? Because he got a beat initially, but he's able to recover, washing around the arc and creating how an outside lane to maneuver. And he takes that lane. Easy first down for Sam Howell. But a good recovery from Chris Paul to not get beat and adjust to where the rusher is taking him. So as we dive into some of Paul's issues, we're going to touch into his play against the long arm. And long arms are very common from defenders, and you have to find a way as an offensive lineman to get those arms off of you. You have to be like have the wherewithal, the awareness, the understanding that you have to swat it off you. You have to keep yourself clean, right? Sometimes offensive linemen, they do bait, and they want that long arm on them because they have a counter move for it, which will help them. But at the same time, it's not always the case, and you can tell like when there's a counter based on how the offensive lineman reacts. And Chris Paul has had a couple of issues in the game against Dallas where long arm was a problem. So right here, you're seeing in a run game, right, being out leveraged already by 97, able to get his pads out of position, but 97 is able to work that left hand, stack Chris Paul, make a play. That's a leverage issue, but also being stacked like that is a problem. So again, right here, we mentioned hand usage, right? So he did have some good opportunities throughout the game to really work his independent hands. But this one, again, you're going up against a power rusher, 91, right? This was the same person he was able to set an anchor with inside the red zone. But now you see that right hand, right, driving him back. And he's more so focused on trying to get a grip on 91 versus trusting himself to get that arm off him and stay clean, because 91 is using that as leverage to drive back. He's not able to do it, right? And that's a good case of hand usage from 91. You have the shoulder pad locked in, and then your left arm, right? You're not able to see it, but the left arm is locked in on the other shoulder pad. So he's just driving them back. That's good grip strength from 91, but also you're going to want to see Chris Paul and increase his play strength. And we said that at the beginning of the breakdown. You have to get a little bit better at that one. So again, long arm is very important. Got to get it off you. Same thing there. Got to get it off you. And maybe with time he'll understand how, his leverage is important and understanding how he can avoid being stacked in the first place. But the long arm is a problem for him right now. I don't know, what it'll take exactly. There are some things that people struggle with throughout their career. Some people do struggle with long arm, but then some people don't. One more thing for Chris Paul as well is understanding that he has to play a little bit quicker. There were several times now. Play speed and athleticism are different. Play speed is having the mental wherewithal to get off the ball quickly, to understand your block assignment, to generally understand what you're supposed to do in that particular play. And for Chris Paul, there were several occasions where you see him the last person off the ball and not necessarily in unison. Like there's a difference. Like if you see a person who is late off the snap, but everybody else is in sync, that's an indicator that the person either didn't hear it or got confused. Chris Paul is one and really the only one who was late off the ball. There are some people who get off the ball quicker than others on their offensive line, but he was actually just generally late. So that is the one thing as well that he'll have to improve upon, just improving his play speed and understanding what he needs to do and also executing it at a quicker rate than what he was. That probably happened about 3 times. But at the same time, in one game, that is something that shows you he has a little bit ways to go. But as we conclude this film session, it is important to understand that, he made his case for being able to at least compete for the Commanders starting offensive line spot, the left guard or right guard, wherever they want to put him. However, it is important to note that while he made his case, right, as a starter, you got to be mindful that Washington may not settle just for Chris Paul because of, him being a rookie. I think it's important to continue to build that interior. But Chris Paul did make a case for why he should at least be considered as a competitor. As a competitor. Is that even a word? A competitor? But a competitor and trying to get that starting bid for the Commander's starting role on the left side or the right side. So that being said, man, that's going to wrap it up for this film breakdown on Chris Paul. Again, hit that like button, subscribe button, and stay tuned for more film breakdowns. Peace.
Damn, set, watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through 4th and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.